Courtrooms are supposed to be places of order, justice, dignity, but when grief meets rage, when pain meets the person who caused it, sometimes order breaks down, sometimes families snap. This is 19-year-old Lindy Jones. He's standing in a South Carolina courtroom facing murder charges. In August 2019, Lindy murdered 18-year-old Willie Antoine Fields. Following investigations, both Lindy and his younger brother Jalen Jones were arrested. Now in court, Angela Fields, the mother of the victim, has some words for Lindy. She approaches the podium. Her voice breaks as she speaks. "I just want to let you know what they took from me. They took away my only child, my only child." Her husband, Willie Clay Fields, is sitting in the gallery, watching, listening, trying to be strong for his wife, but hearing those words, seeing Lindy standing there, the man who killed their son, it's too much. Willie stands up. He's not thinking anymore, just moving, just reacting. He lunges toward Lindy with everything he has. Back off, sir, back off." The officers rush in. Multiple deputies grab Willie, pull him back, wrestle him to the ground. It takes 4 officers to restrain him. Willie is crying, screaming, trying to break free. He just wants 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes with the man who killed his son. That's all he needs. But the officers won't let him, can't let him. They drag him out of the courtroom. Angela is crying. The judge calls for order. Lindy just stands there, watching, emotionless. Eventually, order is restored. The proceeding continues. Lindy Jones is sentenced to 35 years in prison. His brother Jalen receives a 6-year sentence in juvenile detention. But this wasn't the only time families snapped in court. In fact, it happens more often than you'd think. When pain is unbearable, when justice doesn't feel like enough, when you're face to face with the person who destroyed your world. Take the case of Diamond Alvarez. She was only 16 years old. On January 11th, 2023, Diamond was walking her dog in her Houston neighborhood, just a normal afternoon, a routine walk. Then 22 gunshots rang out. Diamond was hit multiple times. She died right there on the street, her dog beside her. Police investigations revealed that the shooter was 19-year-old Frank DeLeon Jr. He and Diamond had been in a relationship. They were on the verge of breaking up. Frank didn't handle it well. Now he's in court, facing murder charges. Diamond's mother is there. She's prepared a victim impact statement. She approaches the podium to tell the court how Frank destroyed her life, how he took her daughter, her baby. But as she's speaking, she notices something. Frank is smirking, actually smirking at her, while she's talking about her dead daughter, while she's crying, while she's reliving the worst day of her life, he's smirking. Diamond's mother stops mid-sentence. Rage floods through her. She moves toward Frank. The officers see it coming. They step in. But before they can fully contain the situation, Diamond's uncle jumps in from the gallery. He attacks Frank, punches flying. Then Frank's mother rushes to defend her son. She attacks Diamond's mother. Now Diamond's aunt jumps in, going after Frank's mother. It's chaos, complete chaos. The courtroom erupts, people screaming, officers rushing from all sides. It takes several minutes to separate everyone, pull them apart, restore some semblance of order. Later, Diamond's mother spoke to the media about what happened. "It was wrong of me. That was wrong of us because we're not monsters, but it's so much hate because I want my daughter back. And what he did wasn't, it was horrible, seeing my daughter there and looking at him that he did that and he's laughing in my face. It was very wrong and I'm so sorry for that." In the end, Frank DeLeon accepted a plea deal. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison. The families were banned from future court proceedings. Fortunately, deputies were ready and stepped in before utter chaos ensued. But the same can't be said for the case of 25-year-old Tristan Lamro. Timestamp 00/06/45/00/0830. Tristan is facing charges for first-degree murder in Utah. On August 23, 2009, Tristan shot his wife, 19-year-old Misty Lamro, in their house multiple times. She died at the scene. Tristan was eventually arrested. Now he's in court for sentencing. Misty's brother, Jason Wilson, walks up to the podium to deliver a victim impact statement, but not before giving Tristan the death stare. Jason begins speaking, telling the court how the murder has affected him, how he lost his sister. how his family will never be the same, but while he's talking, he notices something disturbing. Tristan appears completely unconcerned. He's rocking back and forth in his chair, looking around the courtroom, not listening, not caring, no remorse whatsoever. After a few minutes of addressing the judge, Jason turns his focus to his sister's killer. He looks directly at Tristan, starts directing his words at him, but Tristan's lack of remorse infuriates him more and more. Jason stops talking, he stares at Tristan, and then he moves fast. Jason lunges over the railing, tries to get to Tristan. The deputies are on him immediately, tackling him, pulling him back. Multiple officers needed to restrain him. "Let me go, let me at him, he killed my sister," Jason is screaming, fighting against the officers trying to break free. The courtroom is in chaos again. The judge orders everyone out, calls a recess. Jason is removed from the courtroom, eventually charged with contempt of court. Following the chaos, the officers restored order. The proceeding continued. Tristan Lamro was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. But Jason Wilson wasn't alone in his courtroom actions. Sometimes the defendant's behavior is so shocking, so disrespectful, that families can't contain their rage. Like in the case of Michael Madison, a serial killer facing multiple charges including 3 counts of murder in Ohio. Between 2012 and 2013, Michael killed 3 women, strangled them, wrapped their bodies in garbage bags, dumped them like trash. Before his preliminary hearing, Michael learns the magnitude of his charges. The judge reads them aloud. "Mr. Madison, I'm going to read to you the nature of the charges against you. In the first charge, you're charged with aggravated murder. On or about the 22nd day of July, you did purposely cause the death of an unidentified female while committing another felony." The judge continues reading. 3 murder charges total, each carrying the possibility of death or life in prison. Michael shows no emotion, just nods. "Yeah," he says casually, like he's being told about a parking ticket. Now in court for sentencing, Van Terry, the father of one of the victims, addresses the judge. He's allowed to speak, to say how this has affected him, how Michael destroyed his family. Van Terry turns to speak directly to Michael. "You took my child," his voice breaks, he's trying to hold it together. But then Michael does something unthinkable. He smirks, actually smirks at the grieving father. Van Terry sees it, that smirk, that complete lack of remorse. Something inside him breaks. He lunges at Michael, tries to jump over the table. I'll kill you, the courtroom erupts. Officers rush in from all sides, grabbing Van Terry, pulling him back. It takes multiple deputies to restrain him. He's still trying to get to Michael, still screaming. The judge pounds her gavel. Order, order in this court. Eventually, they get Van Terry out of the courtroom. The proceeding continues. Now it's time for the jury to give their decision. We therefore unanimously find that the sentence of death should be imposed upon the defendant Michael Madison. The courtroom is silent. Michael shows no reaction, just stares ahead. Judge Nancy McDonnell reads her sentence. I am struck by the sheer inhumanity of what one human being can do to not one but 3 human beings. It is incomprehensible. She continues. You lured Jorel Lord, deceased, Shatisha Sheely, Angela Deskins, and Shirel Terry to your apartment for your depraved purposes. You went on to abuse the corpses of these 3 victims. You stripped them from the waist down. You folded them in half, binding them so that their feet were up by their ears. You wrapped them in multiple layers of trash bags and you discarded them. The details are horrifying. The victims' families are crying. Some have to leave the courtroom, can't bear to hear the details. The judge concludes. Accordingly, the sentence of death is imposed upon the defendant Michael Madison on counts 1, 4, and 7. Michael Madison is still awaiting execution on death row in Ohio. But this wasn't the only time parents snapped because of how the killer was acting in court. Sometimes the defendant's behavior during proceedings is so disrespectful, so callous, that families lose control. Like during the sentencing of 18-year-old Peyton Gendron. On May 14, 2022, Peyton, a white supremacist, opened fire in a black-dominated Tops-friendly market store in Buffalo, New York. He live-streamed the attack, hunted people through the aisles, executed them in cold blood. 10 black individuals lost their lives, 3 others were injured before he was finally arrested. Now in court, family members of the victims have the opportunity to address him, to tell him what he took from them. One after another they speak, "You destroyed our lives forever. It's not a day that goes by that I won't remember May 14th. I don't know what to say. You took my daughter, my only child. Could I have saved my aunt? Could I have helped her get away from the bullets?" But one of the most powerful statements came from Barbara Massey, sister of victim Catherine Massey. "My name is Barbara Massey. I'm Kat Massey's sister. You killed my sister. Kat was an aunt. She was a great aunt. She was a cousin. She was a friend." Barbara's voice grows stronger, angrier. "I want personally to choke you and leave my fingerprints on your neck because it was unnecessary. You drove 200 miles to come to Buffalo. You don't even know any black people." She continues, her voice rising. "I want you to think. You better thank those cops for protecting you because I will hurt you so bad. You have made me sick. You got my family crying. I miss my sister every day. You don't like black people? Man, you don't know a damn thing about black people. We're human. We love our kids. We want our kids to go to good schools." While she's speaking, a supposed family member in the gallery can't control himself anymore. He stands up, tries to rush toward Peyton. "We never go in your neighborhoods and take people out. Don't do it." Officers immediately intercept him, grab him, hold him back. The courtroom is tense. Everyone is on edge. More officers move in, surrounding the gallery, making sure no one else tries anything. Luckily, the police are able to calm the situation, restore order. The proceeding continues. Now it's Peyton's turn to speak. He stands up, reads from a prepared statement. "I'm very sorry for the pain I forced the victims and their families to suffer through. I'm very sorry for stealing the lives of your loved ones. I cannot express how much I regret all the decisions I made leading up to my actions on May 14th. He continues, "I did a terrible thing that day. I shot and killed people because they were black. Looking back now, I can't believe I actually did it. I believed what I read online and acted out of hate. I know I can't take it back, but I wish I could." His apology rings hollow. The families aren't buying it. He planned this attack for months, wrote a 180-page manifesto, live-streamed it. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. Timestamp 00/2045 00/2230. Eventually, the judge reads her sentence. "The damage you have caused is too great and the people you have hurt are too valuable to this community. You will never see the light of day as a free man ever again. It is the judgment of this court for your conviction under the first count of the indictment, a domestic act of terrorism motivated by hate in the first degree, that you be sentenced to life in prison without parole." Peyton Gendron was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He will die in prison. But this wouldn't be the last time a parent lunged at the perpetrator in court. Take, for example, the case of Larry Nassar. Larry was a sports doctor at Michigan State University and with USA Gymnastics. For years, he sexually abused young athletes, hundreds of them, under the guise of medical treatment. When police received reports of his crimes, Larry had a different story. He denied everything, claimed it was all legitimate medical treatment. During police interrogation, Larry tried to explain himself. "I don't get it. Why didn't she say something if she was violated in any way, shape, or form?" There was no communication. The detective pushed back. "Do you ever get aroused during these exams?" Larry stammered, "I shouldn't be getting aroused during an exam, right? Well, this is why I'm talking to you about this, because this young girl and her mother both observed this on more than one occasion during treatment." Larry tried to deflect. "If there was arousal, it would be because of whatever. I don't know. I'm not trying to. I don't know when you're a guy sometimes." The truth caught up with him. He was arrested, charged with multiple counts of sexual assault. Now in court, his victims take the stand, one after another, over 150 women and girls, each telling their story, each describing how Larry violated them. "I testify to let the world know that you are a repulsive liar. I am Jessica Tomashow, also known as Victim A. I was sexually assaulted by Larry Nassar when I was 9 and 12 years old. You broke and shattered a lot of girls. You manipulated us to trust you because you're a doctor, and doctors do no wrong, only heal. You are not a healer. The testimonies are devastating, heartbreaking. Larry sits at the defense table, sometimes crying, sometimes looking down, but never truly accepting what he's done. Now it's time for the parents to address Larry, parents who trusted him with their daughters, parents who sat in the exam room while he abused their children, parents who didn't know, couldn't see, didn't understand what was happening. One mother speaks, "I don't know who you are now, maybe I never knew, maybe none of us did, but Larry, you did this to yourself and you did this to us." Another parent addresses him, "Inmate Nassar, that is what your name is, and don't you forget that. And while we all are moving mountains, you, Larry, will have no choice but to sit in prison and wait to die." Then comes one of the most heartbreaking testimonies. A mother named Chelsea's mom. She describes taking her daughter to see Larry, how Chelsea seemed upset afterward. "I said, 'Are you ready to go to lunch?' And she's like, 'No, Mom, I just want to go home.' And I said, 'What's wrong? Are you in pain?' And she said, 'Mom, I just want to go home.' So we got in the car and I said, and she started bawling, and I said, 'Chelsea, tell me what's wrong.' And she said, 'Mom, he put his fingers inside me and they weren't gloved.' And I said, 'Chelsea, I was right there in the room.' And she goes, 'You couldn't see what was going on, Mom.' And she said, 'He hurt me.'" The mother's voice breaks completely. In 2009, she took her own life. She couldn't deal with the pain anymore. It'll be 10 years in March. The courtroom is silent. Everyone is crying. The weight of what Larry did, the lives he destroyed, the girl who couldn't live with what he did to her. For this particular parent, Larry's tears hold no value. Words are not enough. He approaches the judge. "I would ask you, as part of the sentencing, to grant me 5 minutes in a locked room with this demon. Would you do that?" The judge responds gently, "That is not yes or no." "No, sir." The father persists, "Would you give me 1 minute?" "You know that I can't do that." "That's not how, yes or no." "Well, I'm going to have to." The father suddenly moves, lunges toward Larry. "Let me at him." Officers immediately intervene. Multiple deputies grab the father, pull him back. He's fighting against them, screaming, crying, trying to break free. "I need 1 minute, just 1 minute with that bastard." It takes several officers to get him under control, to escort him out of the courtroom. The judge doesn't hold him in contempt, doesn't charge him. She understands. Everyone understands. Eventually, Larry takes the stand to make a statement. "What I'm feeling pales in comparison to the pain, trauma, and emotional destruction that all of you are feeling. There are no words that can describe the depth and breadth of how sorry I am for what has occurred." His apology feels empty, rehearsed. The victims aren't buying it. In the end, the judge gives her sentence. "I find that you don't get it, that you're a danger. You remain a danger. I am a judge who believes in life and rehabilitation when rehabilitation is possible. I have many defendants come back here and show me the great things they've done in their lives after probation, after parole. I don't find that's possible with you." She continues, "Your decision to assault was precise, calculated, manipulative, devious, despicable. I don't have adjectives because your survivors have said all of that. I don't want to repeat it. Sir, I'm giving you 175 years, which is 2,100 months. I just signed your death warrant." Someone in the courtroom reacts. The judge raises her voice. "I need everyone to be quiet. I still have contempt powers. I told you I'm not nice. Thank you. That's all for the record." Larry Nassar will spend the rest of his life in prison. He will die behind bars. While these reactions could certainly be dismissed as effects of uncontrollable anger and grief, sometimes family members plan their courtroom attacks in advance. Like in the case of 23-year-old Quinn Bosa, who's facing charges for murder. Quinn is in court for the murder of his 11-month-old son. The details of the case are horrific: abuse, neglect, violence against an infant. Quinn is found guilty and sentenced to 25 years in prison. As he's being led away by officers, the unexpected happens. Jeremiah Matthew Lay, the child's uncle, suddenly lunges forward, punches Quinn directly in the face, multiple times before officers can pull him off. The courtroom erupts. Officers tackle Jeremiah, wrestle him to the ground. Quinn is bleeding from the punches. The chaos is immediate and intense. Jeremiah is eventually sentenced to 179 days in jail for his actions. But he told reporters later that it was worth it, that Quinn deserved it, that someone needed to make him pay for what he did to that baby. These courtroom attacks happen more often than you'd think, when grief meets the person who caused it, when pain is unbearable, when justice doesn't feel like enough. Families snap, they lunge, they attack, they try to get just 1 minute, just 5 minutes, just enough time to make the perpetrator feel even a fraction of the pain they've caused. The legal system tries to maintain order, tries to ensure safety, tries to provide justice through proper channels. But sometimes the human need for revenge, for retribution, for making someone pay, sometimes that need overrides everything else. These are the stories of when families attack in court, when grief turns to rage, when pain demands action, when the carefully maintained order of the courtroom breaks down into raw human emotion. Courtrooms are supposed to be places of justice, but for these families, justice wasn't enough. They needed more. They needed to act, to do something, anything, to make the pain stop, even if just for a moment. This is what happens when families snap in court, when the unthinkable meets the unbearable, when order breaks down and raw human emotion takes over. These are their stories.